I had previously talked about the Falcon way back in episode 4 of the Random Trade Review, where we covered the Winter Soldier storyline. But that was so long ago, I can't help but think that we're probably in need of a little recap.
Sam Wilson first appeared in Captain America issue number 117 as a former resident of Harlem who was living on an island controlled by the Red Skull. Captain America, Steve Rogers, took Wilson under his wing and began training him, with Wilson adapting the identity of the Falcon. The two had worked together throughout the 1970s, most notably in a classic storyline called Mad Bomb.
In 1983, the Falcon was the recipient of a 4-issue miniseries written by Marvel Comics newcomer Jim Owsley.
Owsley worked throughout much of the 80s as a writer/editor, most notably retelling the Green Lantern Hal Jordan's origin in a storyline called Emerald Dawn. Owsley then teamed with the late Dwayne McDuffie and several other comic book writers of color to found Milestone Media, an imprint designed to create more African-American superheroes.
The founding of Milestone coincided with Jim Owsley changing his name to Christopher Priest. He's never exactly stated why he changed his name, though he's made a few joking remarks about once threatening to become a priest. And in case you're wondering, no, this is not the British science fiction author also named Christopher Priest. In fact, to avoid confusion, the former Jim Owsley just usually refers to himself by the moniker of Priest.
Priest would eventually return to Marvel to launch a critically acclaimed Black Panther series for the Marvel Knights imprint.
In 2004, Priest would return to the character that helped launch his career in a new Captain America and Falcon team-up book. And today we're looking at the first 4 issues of that title. This is Captain America and the Falcon, Two Americas.
In Cuba, a derelict is asked for information on Sam Wilson. The bum refuses to talk, citing that the investigator is in league with the local drug cartel known as the Rivas. The investigator eventually tortures the information out from the bum and leaves the message that Captain America wasn't here. Except Steve Rogers is in New York talking to Joseph Robbie Robertson of the Daily Bugle about Sam Wilson's whereabouts. Sam was last seen conducting an unauthorized mission in Cuba after an old friend, Daily Bugle reporter Layla Taylor, was put into the prison at Guantanamo Bay after reporting of a possible connection between the CIA and the Rivas. Cap goes back to Avengers Mansion where he and the Scarlet Witch review security footage of Sam breaking Layla out of Gitmo. Wanda offers to help Steve, but he declines. Sam's actions have caused enough trouble already. Other Avengers showing up might lead to an international incident. Meanwhile, the Falcon is at the Rivas estate trying to negotiate safe passage for him and Layla. The Rivas prepare for a shootout when they're interrupted by an explosion. Falcon points out that Captain America's arrived and now everyone is in trouble. Because the Captain America in question, it ain't Steve Rogers.
Later on in the story, this other Captain America is given the name Anti-Cap, and his origin is elaborated on. So to avoid confusion, I'm just going to start calling the character Anti-Cap right now.
The Anti-Cap takes Sam and Layla hostage after knocking them out and returns to Gitmo. However, the Anti-Cap isn't on Gitmo's side either, as he kills several guards and then commandeers a plane. Meanwhile, Captain America's attempts to reach Cuba have been halted by an approaching hurricane. Fortunately, Avengers government liaison Henry Gyrick has come up with an idea. Have the Scarlet Witch pose as a member of the flight crew and then use her hex power to stall the storm.
Okay, I do get the reasoning here. Wanda is in a uniform other than her Scarlet Witch does, so that she looks like part of the flight crew. But I do have to wonder how undercover she is when the uniform she's wearing still has her name on it.
The plane takes off and Wanda is able to hold the storm at bay. However, the plane winds up colliding with the Anti-Cap's plane and the two planes begin crashing. Sam and Layla use this to stage an escape attempt. It works, but the Falcon's flight harness is struck by lightning and destroyed, causing the two to fall into the ocean below. Meanwhile, Wanda guides Steve to land, where he meets up with the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Allie Morales. Morales fills Cap on an Anti-Cap. When she encountered the agent earlier, she acquired his DNA via a friendly kiss. The man who became Anti-Cap, his real name is never given, grew up in Oklahoma, where the first girlfriend he ever had was killed in the 1995 bombing of the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. Driven by revenge, he tried to join the Navy but failed the psych evaluation. Months later, he was approached by members of the Office of Naval Intelligence who were trying to create their own super soldier. He was given a chemical called AVX, which did increase his strength, but would eventually cycle out of his body, necessitating the chemical to be continuously dispersed via a transdermal patch placed just above his upper hip. However, it wasn't until the man behind the project, Admiral James Westbrook, shot the young man, kicking the AVX into high gear and creating a new super soldier. Soon afterwards, the anti-Cap went rogue, especially after hearing about the government working with the Rivas cartel.
Everybody got that?
Cap and Morales go to the remains of Rivas headquarters to investigate what it was the cartel was working on that attracted so much attention. They discover that the Rivas were concocting a super bioweapon more effective than anthrax or smallpox. Cap also manages to get in contact with the Falcon's sidekick, Red Wing.
Red Wing is the name of a pet falcon that Sam Wilson rescued in Rio de Janeiro. Sam and Red Wing actually share a telepathic bond thanks to a cosmic cube. In fact, this telepathic bond allows Sam to see through Red Wing's eyes.
Red Wing directs Cap to a bathroom where the Falcon's Avengers ID card is located. On the back of the card is a slide containing a sample of the bioweapon. Cap manages to send the sample to the Avengers, and Hank Pym confirms that the bioweapon is not a germ, but rather something else. Meanwhile, the Falcon and Layla have reached ground in Miami and connect up with some old contacts. Unfortunately, the anti-Cap is on their trail and winds up arriving as Layla is filing her report with the Daily Bugle. The anti-Cap begins throwing Sam around until the real Captain America arrives. Steve offers a sample of the bioweapon to the anti-Cap, but the villain knows that the sample isn't real. He then tosses the Falcon at Cap and runs off. Layla then pieces together what's been going on as Cap runs off in pursuit.
See, it turns out that Captain America and the Falcon knew more than they let on. It turns out that Naval Intelligence contacted S.H.I.E.L.D. after the anti-Cap went rogue. S.H.I.E.L.D. in turn contacted Captain America, who dispatched the Falcon to Cuba. As for Layla, well, she just kinda blundered her way into the situation and got caught in the wrong spot at the wrong time.
The anti-Cap tries driving off in an ambulance, only for Captain America to jump onto the vehicle. The ambulance crashes just as the Falcon arrives and zamps anti-Cap with a taser. Still alive, the anti-Cap is taken into custody. Sometime later, Steve Rogers and Nick Fury meet up with Admiral Westbrook in a diner. Westbrook wants to know where the anti-Cap and the bioweapon are. Cap says that both are safe, but Westbrook will never see either of them. Westbrook just storms off in anger.
And so ends Captain America and the Falcon, Two Americas. How was it? Well, I do think it's a decent little espionage story, and the characterization of both Captain America and the Falcon is pretty spot on for the characters. Unfortunately, that's kind of where the compliments end. Like I said, well, the story is pretty good throughout most parts. Towards the end, it starts getting a little jumbled with the whole jumping back and forth between the origin of the anti-Cap and the current adventure that's going on. I kind of wish maybe they had just saved the anti-Cap's origin for its own issue. Maybe made that issue 5 and included that in the trade or something to that effect. It just kind of interrupts the narrative flow that's going on to constantly be jumping back and forth and back and forth. And yeah, I do have to address the elephant in this book. The artwork by Bart Sears is pretty bad. I don't normally hate Bart Sears. He's done some pretty good stuff here and there, but even Christopher Priest admits that Sears was not the right choice for this book. His characters are just way too bulky. I mean, I can understand the two Captain Americas, they're super soldiers, so them looking a little stronger than most guys seems appropriate, but Falcon, this is a character who's supposed to spend most of his time flying around. He shouldn't look, jacked to the dang nines. And, let's not even get started on the fact that the Scarlet Witch is walking around with 2 basketballs shoved into her chest. Not to mention, for a book called Captain America and the Falcon really doesn't do much. He just kind of sits there and exposits a lot. And then he sort of stands around. I kind of wish there had been a bit more action involving him. And that's why I unfortunately have to give Captain America the Falcon Two Americas an F. And with that, let's see what we're doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
Hey guys, want to recommend a book to be placed in the randomizer? AKA the cardboard box? Well, check out my Patreon at patreon.com/sleepytime for Cap Productions. Or just check the link in the description below and see how you can help make that happen.